Well, hello, and happy Monday, guys. Welcome to Live at 5. This is a show that I do every day Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 5 p.m. on my channel. On Fridays, we go over to my second channel, Actively Unwoke for Happy Hour, and on Saturdays, I rest. Today, we got a lot of fun news. We're going to be talking mostly about Joe Rogan today, because I have so many thoughts about this situation with Joe Rogan. I want to hear your guys' thoughts in the chat as well. I really think we are at a major inflection point in this whole fight against this woke nonsense. I think what Joe Rogan chooses to do in this moment, whether he chooses to step up or whether he chooses to sell out for that sweet Spotify cash, although now it looks like he might have a way that he could conceivably do both and still get that sweet cash. We'll see about that. But I really do think that what Joe Rogan chooses to do in this moment is going to be an inflection point for all of us. And I have a lot of thoughts to share around that. One of my fears is that if Joe Rogan doesn't step up, who will, quite frankly, but we'll get into that. I also have an article about Andrew Yang apologizing for something he shouldn't have apologized for. And to round it out, we haven't done Joy Reid reaction stream in a minute. I think the last time we did Joy Reid reaction stream was when I got the first session of my tattoo. This is how I time things. I time things in terms of like my tattoos. I just got the third session done on my tattoo, and so that means the first session was 2 months ago, which means that our last no, would have been a month. No, it was on January 6th. That was our last Joy Reid reaction stream. Anyway, I have an article about Joy Reid being crazy again. Another crazy thing that Joy Reid and MSNBC have said, and I'm seriously considering. Let me do this. Let me put a poll into the chat right now. I want to put a poll in to see if you guys think we should have Joy Reid reaction stream tonight. Should we have Joy Reid reaction stream? Oh, hang on. I don't even know how to use my own setup. I promise you the rest of the show is going to go better than this tonight. I'm kind of itching for Joy Reid reaction stream later. It'd be an impromptu thing, but I'm gonna let you guys decide. I have just put that poll into the chat right now, and while you guys in the chat are answering that poll, please remember to mount the like button for me. And if you are so inclined, you could also do many other things. And I'm also chatting. Actually, no, we're gonna wait for that chat to come in later. Hang on. I'm doing too many things at once. I got distracted earlier and I didn't do my proper setup. I'm doing too many things at once. So here's what we're gonna do. I actually wanted to start off with this. So breaking news. Breaking news. Check this out. A judge bans honking in Ottawa for at least 10 days. I'm sure that's going to solve the problem entirely. I literally just saw this before we came live on the air, and I just couldn't resist doing like this breaking news. I mean, come on. I've heard that they're banning people bringing gas into the city. Like, Ottawa is screwed. I saw, maybe we should look at this Twitter thread. I saw a great Twitter thread yesterday, just like enumerating the complexities of how screwed Ottawa is. Actually, let me pull it up. I'll find it. I saw it last night sometime around 2 a.m. when I'm trolling around Twitter at 2 a.m. looking for content to talk about. Hang on. This was a good thread, though. This was worth it. No, we're going to talk about Odyssey. We're going to talk about Rumble today. Guys, just so you know, my Twitter is basically my notebook. It is my notebook. So don't think there's any sort of higher level marketing strategy to any of this. It's just like, these are the things that I need to remember to talk about and think about and read. That is exactly how I use Twitter. All right, here is the thread that I'm talking about. And Naruto in with the super chat. Our last Joy Reid stream was when she found she's getting fired for. Yes, that is exactly correct. It was when Joy Reid found out that she was probably going to lose her job via Twitter. So, I mean, maybe if we have another Joy Reid reaction stream, maybe we only have so many Joy Reid reaction streams left to do. So maybe we'll do it tonight. We're going to see what the poll says. Looks like a lot of you want to do Joy Reid reaction stream. So maybe I'll be back in a couple hours talking about something else. But look at this Twitter thread from Matt, who is a journalist. So, we know we can't trust him. He's also got a check. So that's another thing. But let's see what he has to say. He says, Ottawa has lost control of itself. Most of the crowd seems non-violent, even cheerful. Doesn't he seem a little bit begrudging about that? That the most of the crowd seems nonviolent? But the city isn't in control of its territory, so the general nonviolence is really just a lucky break. The tactical situation for Ottawa is grim. Having lost control, it can't get back without a confrontation, and it isn't confident it would win that confrontation. I think Soli knows this. I don't know who that is. I'm not really following the Ottawa stuff that closely, other than like rooting for the truckers every now and again. I think he's trying to convince his bosses Ottawa is going to need to be rescued by outside help. Again, they know this. That's why he's talking about the military. I think a police effort with massive reinforcements is more likely than a military response. But I'm not too confident in that prediction. In the main, though, while this isn't January 6th per se, Canada doesn't have effective control over its capital. It can get it back. It will. But for now, it's lost. Our government doesn't have control of the capital city super. As far as I can tell, no one knows what to do about this. I think some of them have clued into the problem, but not all. But I think a lot of our leaders might still be stuck in the bargaining stage if they're even that far. And then he's got some other notes there that I very much appreciate how he's numbered these, so I know which ones to read and which ones are important and which ones are just like his extemporaneous thoughts. Even if the crowds remain mostly, and yes, I know not entirely, peaceful, what's happening right now in Ottawa is absolutely catastrophic, both for the rule of law and the long term security of Canada. Everyone sees this. This is a massive failure of the state. Oh no, a massive failure of the state. We wouldn't want that. Anything but that. If there is any good news to be had, it's that notes were clearly taken by other Canadian jurisdictions too. Other convoys in major cities, including my hometown of Toronto, have been handled very differently. I imagine this will be the new rulebook going forward. There's probably still a chance to resolve this non-violently, mostly. But the window is closing. I think the danger of a large nonviolent incident in Ottawa is growing fast. And it goes on and on. This thread is really great. I mean, it gives us a little bit of an insight into. Oh, God! Incognito just reminded me. Incognito, thank you for reminding me that it is Monday. Guys, I'm sorry, we can't do Joy Reid reaction stream tonight because we are going to be doing local Zoom, which I always forget about. And this isn't because I don't love my locals, it's because I forget that they're now on Monday. They used to be on Tuesday and now they're on Monday. Okay, sorry to disappoint. No Joy Reid reaction stream tonight. Sorry. Oh God, thank you Incognito for reminding me. Reminding me of something that is in my calendar that I probably would have gotten a notification for later. So, guys, if you want to join locals tonight, what you need to do is to become a supporter in my locals community. I cannot believe this has happened to me the last 3 weeks with our Monday locals is I literally forget that the local Zoom call is on Monday until like 15 minutes before the Zoom call. So I'm just going to pop a link in the chat. You can become a locals supporter by heading over to kb.locals.com/support. And what's going to happen when you become a supporter in my locals is not only that you will get access to my amazing community, it's not only that you will support my work, and I truly cannot keep this up without my local supporters. So I'm very much appreciative of that. But you will get access to our 2 community Zoom calls that we do every single week. Contrary to what my memory tells me, we are doing one today at 7 p.m. So in just 2 short hours from now, we'll be on a Zoom call with my locals. Now, these local Zoom calls have sometimes stretched way into the wee hours of the night. Sometimes they go on for like up to 4 hours. So we talk a lot about a lot of stuff. We talk about what's going on in life, what's going on in the news. I'm sure we're going to talk about Joe Rogan today. I'm sure we'll talk about a lot of things today. Sometimes people, like a couple weeks ago, one of my locals members gave us a whole lesson on the evolution of playing cards, and it was fascinating to watch how they went from China in through tarot cards in through like Spain and how there's 2 different sets of playing cards in Germany. And it's just like it was a fascinating thing. But this is the type of stuff that happens on our locals Zoom calls. So that's what you're going to get access to. Another thing that's going on is this Saturday is our monthly Bitchcraft, which is just an open Zoom call. It's basically exactly like our normal local Zoom calls, except we craft. And we do it on the weekends. So if you have a job and you have to work during the week, or you're tired and hanging out with the kids at night or things like that, the weekends are just a little bit nicer. So we do a bitchcraft on the second Saturday of every month at 3 p.m. We have our next one coming up this coming Saturday. So you can come and bring anything to bitchcraft. I, of course, will be knitting as the superior craft. You can crochet. You can do laundry. You can do needlepoint, you can draw, you can do whatever you want to do. You don't even have to do a craft. If you're like doing chores or something, you can just come and hang out and talk. But that's going to be happening on Saturday as well. And you get access to all of that and many more things when you join my locals community. So we talked about what's going on in Ottawa. Let's jump in. And I know you have all mounted that like button. I know that you are all subscribed to the channel. Fun fact, YouTube has stopped serving my content to pretty much anyone that's not subscribed to my channel. It's true. Like 90% of the people who watch my content are subscribed to my channel. And guess what? YouTube does me the great disservice of unsubscribing people from my channel literally every single night. They get unsubscribed in batches. It's so fun. So if you think you might want to be subscribed to the channel, or maybe even think that you are, just double check for me. I really do appreciate it. The subscriptions really help me out. Turn on those notifications and you might actually get notifications about my content every once in a while too. But let's jump into the main topic of the day, right? Which is this Joe Rogan standoff with Spotify. Now, a lot has happened. So yesterday on our effed up news stream that I do on Sundays, it's a special stream where we go over some of the more screwed up news of the week. We talked about the fact that, first of all, Joe Rogan made a big mistake by apologizing. You never bend the knee to the woke, even if you're wrong. And I do legitimately think that Joe Rogan, frankly, said some things he really, really, really shouldn't have. But that's actually not the point with the woke. The point is they're trying to get you to capitulate. They're trying to get you to submit to them. And once you do it once, they have you over a barrel forever and ever and ever. And there's never anything you can do to stop it. So he made a mistake there. And excuse me. And there's just been kind of like, what is it? Like, oh God, sorry. sorry to cough into the mic. There's just been like a domino effect going on since then, with like new stuff coming out. And the big thing that happened last night after Joe Rogan apologized is Spotify's CEO sent this email out to their employees, and Spotify's CEO, quite frankly, castrated himself in the sending of this email. And so what I want to do is read this, and then we're going to look at some of the stuff that's been going on with Rumble and Odyssey's response to Rumble, which is kind of funny. Then we're going to read an article about Joe Rogan and why they're so pissed at him and why this is a pivotal moment. But before we jump into this, the other thing we talked about in the stream yesterday is that, the reason that you don't want Joe Rogan to apologize is this was a professional political attack on him. This is not just some random thing that just happened. This is a professional political attack by Democratic super PAC. And that's all the more reason that Joe Rogan never should have effing apologized in the first place. And I understand, man. I understand that Joe Rogan just wanted to do his podcast. I understand that he just wanted to talk to people and do his podcast and do his thing and hang out with his buddies. And I totally get and totally respect that. But the thing of it is sometimes we find ourselves in positions that we don't want to be in, and that, quite frankly, might be a little inconvenient for us personally. I've talked about this countless times. I do not like being a public person. I was thinking about this last night. I was like literally crying myself to sleep last night, TMI, but I really was. I was having a night last night because I have legitimate stalkers on the internet, because that's what happens when you do stuff on the internet. You apparently get crazy, psychotic internet stalkers. And I was thinking about how my life would be measurably better right now if my article had never gone viral. And I do truly believe this. My life would be measurably better right now if my Trump rally article had never gone viral and that had never happened, and I stayed a private person and no one ever knew who I was, and this YouTube channel didn't happen, and all this stuff didn't happen. Now, does that mean that it was wrong of me to kind of step into this role when that happened? No, because it needed to. It needed to. This is a way to serve the greater good. This is a way to speak out on issues in a way that other people can't. And I am hyper aware that when I am forcing myself to get up and do YouTube when I don't want to every single day, I'm not saying I don't want to ever. Sometimes it's really fun. And of course, I love you guys in the chat. But like, there are days where I have to force myself to do this. And the way that I do that is by knowing that it is part of the greater good, of the necessary that needs to happen. And maybe if I do it well and I'm able to create a lot of people like me who are fighting back and standing up against the woke nonsense and doing all the stuff, then I can start to take a step back and go back to my normal life, which is what I really want at the end of the day. Now, I'm never actually going to be able to get back there completely, but that's the goal. Ultimately, is to create more people doing what I'm doing to be able to do that. And so I tell you guys this story because I do actually have a lot of sympathy for the position that Joe Rogan is in. He doesn't want to be the one person holding the torch for free speech in this country. That wasn't what he signed up for. That wasn't the point of doing his podcast. He just wanted to talk to people and hang out with his buddies. And it's like all of a sudden he finds himself holding the torch for all of us in this battle for tech censorship and free speech. So I fully understand that he's probably in a position that he did not want to be in. But guess what, dude? That's why you're getting the $100 million offers. And sometimes you need to step up to the plate and play the role that you need to play. But I want to start off this discussion by reading this email from Spotify's CEO that he sent out last night out to the staff at Spotify. It's a little bit long, but I'm going to try to do some commentary on it and why I think Spotify's CEO absolutely castrated himself with the sending of this email. This was a bad CEO move. Anyway, let's dig in. Spotify team, there are no words I can say to adequately convey how deeply sorry I am for the way the Joe Rogan Experience controversy continues to impact each of you. Not only are some of Joe Rogan's comments incredibly hurtful, I want to make clear that they do not represent the values of this company. I know this situation leaves many of you feeling drained, frustrated, and unheard. It's important that you're aware that we've had a conversation with Joe and his team about some of the content in his show, including his history of using some racially insensitive language. Following these discussions and his own reflections, he chose to remove a number of episodes from Spotify. He also issued his own apology over the weekend, which of course tells us that Joe Rogan was the one that made the decisions about which episodes to remove. That doesn't sit well with me. That doesn't sit well. But we'll see. The email continues. While I strongly condemn what Joe has said, and I agree with his decision to remove past episodes from our platform, I realize some will want more. And I want to make one point very clear. I do not believe that silencing Joe is the answer. Well, you already did silence him, though. You already did silence him. In removing over 100 episodes from his podcast, you did silence him. You literally did. So let's not play pretend that some censorship is better than more censorship. All censorship is bad. Just because you only censored 100 of his thousands of episodes or however many he has doesn't actually mean that that censorship is not silencing him. You did silence him for over 100 flipping episodes. We should have clear lines around content and take action when they are crossed, but canceling voices is a slippery slope. Looking at this issue more broadly, it's critical thinking and open debate that powers real and necessary progress. Another criticism that I continue to hear from many of you is that it's not just about the Joe Rogan Experience on Spotify. It comes down to our direct relationship with him. In last week's town hall, I outlined to you that we are not the publishers of the Joe Rogan Experience, but perception due to our exclusive license implies otherwise. So I've been wrestling with how this perception squares with our values. And then the person doing this thread skipped a post, so we have to go down here. Including, hang on, is that the full picture? Okay, here it is. If we believe in having an open platform as a core value of the company, then we must also believe in elevating all types of creators, including those from underrepresented communities and a diversity of backgrounds. We've been doing a great deal of work in this area already, but I think we can do even more. So I am committed to an incremental investment of $100 million for the licensing, development, and marketing of music, artists, and songwriters, and audio content from historically marginalized groups. How many members in the chat of historically marginalized groups would like a record deal? Apparently, you can get one from Spotify just by being a member of an historically marginalized groups. Of course. Of course, this is what they did. What a massive virtue signal. This CEO just told his staff that his staff have the power to dictate the direction of the company. This CEO should be fired by the board of directors. He just put himself at the whim of his staff and made himself entirely feckless. This will dramatically increase our efforts in these areas. While some might want us to pursue a different path, I believe that more speech on issues can be highly effective in improving the status quo and enhancing the conversation altogether. I deeply regret that you are carrying so much of this burden, and I want to be transparent in setting the expectation that in order to achieve our goal of becoming the global audio platform, these kinds of disputes will be inevitable. For me, I come back to centering on our mission and unlocking the potential of human creativity and enabling more than a billion people to enjoy the work of what we think will be more than 50 million creators. This mission makes these clashes worth the effort. Then we go back up here. I've told you several times over the last week, but I think it's critical we listen carefully to one another and consider how we can and should do better. I've spent this time having lots of conversations with people inside and outside of Spotify. Some have been supportive, while others have been incredibly hard, but all of them made me think. One of the things I am thinking about is what additional steps we can take to further balance creator expression with user safety. I've asked our teams to expand the number of outside experts we consult with on these efforts and look forward to sharing more details. Your passion for this company and our mission has made a difference in the lives of so many listeners and creators around the world. I hope you won't lose sight of that. He's basically begging his staff to let him stay. It's the ability to focus and improve Spotify even on some of our toughest days that have helped us build the platform we have. We have a clear opportunity to learn and grow together from this challenge, and I'm ready to meet that head on. I know it is difficult to have these conversations play out so publicly, and I continue to encourage you to reach out to your leaders, your HR partners, or me directly if you need support or resources for yourself or your team. The staff at Spotify now have a very direct understanding that they have control over the CEO and that the CEO will bend the knee for whatever the staff want. Never, ever, ever. I don't know why CEOs forget this. Your staff works for you. Now, I'm not going to say that if I was in the CEO's position, I wouldn't have done something to address this. I probably would have. I don't think I would have invested $100 million in people based on the color of their skin. That wouldn't have been my first inclination. I certainly would have said something. Maybe what I would have done is launch a series of workshops about free speech. Maybe what I would have done would it be more explicit in my hiring practice that your personal politics will not dictate the future of this company. This CEO shouldn't have apologized for exactly the same reason that Joe Rogan shouldn't have apologized, because now his staff know unequivocally that if they protest and they whine and they complain in their weekly town hall meetings, that they can get the CEO to do whatever they want them to do. This is a leaderless company. The CEO set the direction of this company by offering Joe Rogan $100 million in the first place to come exclusively to Spotify. Joe Rogan sold out, and I always thought he sold out for this deal. When Joe Rogan took this deal, I was kind of like, he's been doing this a long time. You know what? He deserves his payday. I totally get it. But any of us saw this coming. We knew what was going to happen. And Joe Rogan, quite frankly, is a really smart guy that's interviewed a lot of people, and he should have known this was going to happen too. The CEO of Spotify, maybe I can allow a little leeway there for him not understanding that this would obviously happen. I don't know. But I think that this has put both of them in a really bad position. And I said so last night on Twitter. I wrote a little open letter to Joe Rogan. No, I don't think he's ever going to read it, but this is just what I was thinking about at 1:49 a.m. I said, "Dear Joe Rogan, I get that you're not in a position you want to be in right now. You just want to talk to cool people. I get it. But you're in it, and you're the guy we have for the moment. But you need to either step up or sell out. It's time you have to choose one. You can't have both. If you step up, you own the free speech fight for real. Millions will support you because you stand between us and ruin. If you don't want that, then sell out. Take that sweet cash and water down your show. Just be honest about it so we can know if we can't count on you to step up. Personally, I hope you choose the former. Step up, be the hero we need. But I wouldn't blame you if you sold out. That's a lot of cash. You've been doing this a long time, and you didn't get in this for this fight. You just wanted to talk to cool people. But everyone is called to serve in a way that they can do the most good. You can help a lot of people here, possibly even save us from ourselves. We don't step up because it's convenient. We step up because it's necessary. So, where I was last night in thinking about this was that Joe Rogan has two choices at this point. He can either kind of backtrack from that initial BS apology that he made and say, you know what? No, I may not have asked to be the defender of free speech in this country, but I am the guy with the FU money and the FU audience, and I can do whatever the fuck I want. And I'm not bending the knee to you people. I apologized for saying the bad things. Now we're going to move on, and there is going to be no further censorship of my content. That is strategy number one. Strategy number two is that Joe Rogan continues to censor his content, completely waters down his show, and quickly becomes irrelevant as he pisses off the audience for getting rid of the reasons that they tuned in the first place. But he gets that $100 million to Spotify cash, retires nicely, lives out the rest of his life as that guy that used to have that amazing podcast that would say the things that no one else would say. Those are Joe Rogan's two options, except that they've now been made a little bit more complicated. Listen, man, I'm gonna be honest. Now, you guys know that I do have issues with Rumble. I do. I haven't hid them. I think there is a lot of improvement that Rumble could do. But I have to give Chris Pavlovsky some credit here. Always give credit where credit is due. Chris deserves some credit for this particular maneuver. He posted this public letter today. Dear Joe, we stand with you, your guests, and your legions of fans in desire for real conversation. We'd like to offer you 100 million reasons to make the world a better place. How about you bring all your shows to Rumble, both old and new, with no censorship, for 100 million bucks over 4 years. This is our chance to save the world, and yes, this is totally legit. So, one could argue that Joe Rogan could literally have his cake and eat it too. One could argue that Joe Rogan could sell out and get his $100 million, but he gets it from Rumble instead of Spotify, and at the same time steps up to stand up for free speech and what is right and what is correct. Now, listen, I don't know where Rumble's getting $100 million. To be quite frank, I don't understand how Rumble makes money at all in any way. I don't understand how Rumble has money to acquire. My understanding is that the acquisition of Locals was like a stock deal. It wasn't actually like cash. I don't know if I'm correct about that. That's my kind of like, high level, not really paying attention understanding, but I thought it was a stock deal. So where the hell is Rumble getting $100 million? That's a question I have. But I like the balls of it. I do. Now, as a side note on this, Odyssey, and of course Odyssey is of all of the alt tech platforms, not including Locals, because of course Locals is my favorite alt tech platform, even though Rumble owns them now, kind of like, well, technically, I guess. But like, Locals is my favorite alt tech platform, but of the video platforms, Odyssey is my favorite by far. And it's not just because it's Jeremy Kaufman's Jeremy Kauffman founded Library, which Odyssey is built on Library. And of course, I'm helping Jeremy Kauffman run for Senate in New Hampshire. And he's an all around awesome guy and leader of the Free State Project. Well, not leader, but he's like the face of it. He does a lot of stuff. There are other people in charge of it, technically, I think. I don't know. Anyway, Odyssey put out this statement, though, because apparently Odyssey, one of the reasons I love them is they have snark and they're so libertarian. Libertarians have their own culture, man. And they put out this statement in response to Rumble that I just thought was really funny. Like, literally, I was on the floor laughing when I saw this. They said, "Dear Joe, we stand with you, your guests, and your legions of fans in our desire for real conversation. So we'd like to offer you 100 gazillion reasons to make the world a better place. How about you bring all your shows to Odyssey, both old and new, with no censorship, including criticism of Israel and Donald Trump, for 100 gazillion bucks over 4 years. This is our chance to save the world. And yes, this is totally legit and not just a marketing ploy for attention. Sincerely, Julian, who's the CEO of Odyssey." I just thought that was really funny. But apparently Odyssey has questions too. Odyssey's like, where are you getting $100 million? That's really what they're saying. So I don't know. I don't know where Rumble's getting $100 million. But listen, man, maybe they will be in a position to make $100 million very, very quickly if Joe Rogan brings all his content to their platform. I hope he doesn't. I think if Joe Rogan does not take this offer from Rumble, that tells us a lot about where Joe Rogan's current priorities are. This is going to be the inflection point. Because he has $100 million offer, man. And let's just be honest. If for some reason Rumble doesn't actually have this cash like they claim they do, Joe Rogan can go anywhere he wants and get $100 million. This is like the money is not the problem here. The problem is, does he have the inclination to do it? And this is what I don't know. I felt like when Joe Rogan took the Spotify deal, that was his way of saying, I'm done. I'm cool. I don't need to do this anymore at the level that I've been doing it. I've built my audience. I built my brand. I print money with every episode. I can make as much money as I want in the world. I'm going to kick my feet back and just chill for the rest of my life until I retire. I thought that was what the Spotify deal was. And so we're going to see if he stays with Spotify. I think we can all assume that Joe Rogan has just turned off his brain to doing this any longer. He didn't want to do it he didn't want to be the bearer of free speech in the first place. And so he's just going to do his thing. And that's fine. And I genuinely mean this. That is fine. I get it. I think it is a perfectly reasonable choice. But if he doesn't take this $100 million deal from Rumble, that tells us he's not really in the game. And what that is a signifier of is the fact that other people need to step up into that role. Other people are going to need to step up into his place. Who is that? I'm honestly asking in the chat, who is that that's going to step up into Joe Rogan's place? I don't know the answer to that. No, I don't think it's Jimmy Dore. I don't. A lot of people have said that to me over the last couple of days. I don't think it's Jimmy Dore. I don't know who it is, but I'd love to hear your answers in the chat. But we're also going to read this article from Techno Fog. The revolution has come for Joe Rogan. There is no forgiveness because they seek destruction, not restoration. And the reason I want to read this article is to really, really highlight the inflection point that we are in at this moment. Because this is more than just one MMA fighter and his podcast. This will tell us a lot about where this movement is going. So we're going to read that. But before we do, guys, please make sure you mount that like button for me. Please make sure you're subscribed to the channel on whatever platform you're watching on, whether that be Odyssey. I am streaming on Odyssey right now, as I always do. I'm streaming on Facebook. Thank you, my awesome channel, for the tip over on Odyssey. I appreciate that. My awesome channel says Rumble is supposed to have $100 million because they are supposed to go public and they are supposed to raise Rumble thinks they're going to raise $500 million by going public. His first mistake was backing down at all. It's like running from a bad dog. You're begging to get bit. That's exactly right, my awesome channel. It's exactly right. Yeah, maybe Elijah Schaffer, Patrice, maybe Elijah Schaffer could step up into that role. That'd be pretty rad. I think that would be great. So I want to read this article. Let's jump in. The Taliban took back Afghanistan in the late summer of 2020 in the late summer of 2020 shortly after fight am I hang on. I always forget to make this font bigger for you guys. I'm sorry. Gotta take care of you. Gotta be able to see. It also helps me read it. Okay, now we can get going. The Taliban took back Afghanistan in the late summer of 2021, shortly after the Americans withdrew, tired and weary and broke after nearly 20 years of fighting. They seized control of the country in the broad and particular sense, setting up command in the presidential palace in Kabul and targeting the individuals who criticized the new government. By December 2021, regular Afghans and members of the Afghan press who expressed critical views of their new rulers have been subjected to months of intimidation and fear. The Biden administration has adopted these same tactics, calling for their critics to be silenced by the administration's corporate and media allies. After 20 years of trying to export Western values to Afghanistan, they ended up importing Taliban style repression to the United States, and it only cost us trillions of dollars and thousands of lives. Now, the regime and its comrades, excuse me, guys, my throat just got really. I've been having issues with my throat ever since I got nominated for governor of New Hampshire at the Libertarian Convention. Someone was sick at that convention, and it's not COVID. I had COVID already. All right. We're going to get it together. The Biden administration has adopted these same tactics, calling for their critics to be silenced by the administration's corporate and media allies. After 20 years of trying to export Western values, we already read that. Now the regime and its comrades target Joe Rogan, an inquisitive comedian with a podcast. He is accused of spreading misinformation by those that illegally spy on their citizens and lie without remorse. In reality, this isn't about misinformation. It's that Rogan's crimes are those of words and thought. They prosecute on behalf of the God they have created, searching to eradicate those guilty of the sin of blasphemy. The Taliban would be proud. This guy's a good writer. We can be certain that the regime is not concerned with the truth. Have you seen them struggle to explain the evidence that Russia was planning a false flag in Ukraine to justify an invasion? Or consider how COVID-19 misinformation originated from the US government and its bureaucratic arms. Check with the CDC for all relevant information. I can't talk about that because of YouTube sucking so bad. They killed the truth before. Who's to say they're not trying to do that with Rogan? These are easy observations. Then we get to the deeper and more consequential truths that are manipulated and deformed and remade for political purposes. Patterns emerge, and maybe they're repeating. The institution of marriage and the definition of marriage is subjected to social, meaning political evolution. Mothers are redefined as birthing people. Words are even disappeared by the US government for threat that they are stigmatizing. Dare someone to have a negative opinion of an ex-convict or prisoner. To put it more bluntly, the people who believe men can give birth are now in charge of what is true. The only authority they have is political power. Such power isn't necessarily definitive, but it gives us the strength to set definitions and enforce the rules to declare guilt and issue punishment. Conflicts of interest be damned. Power over language is power over the people. The primary purpose of language, which is to describe reality, is replaced by the revival purpose of asserting power over it. So we've talked a lot on this channel about how the primary weapon that the woke use against all of us is their control of the language. They change definitions on a whim. They create words out of nowhere. Equity used to mean how much you had already paid in to own your house. Now it means something completely different. Microaggression wasn't a real thing until they created it. So they use language in order to gain power over people. And when the language that they've created or that they've adopted, or dare I say, appropriated for their purpose, when it stops working, they simply change the definition of the word entirely, or they introduce new language into the spectrum. This is what they're talking about here. We always have to keep in mind the reason that we never, ever, 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 ever buy into the definitions that the woke want us to buy into is because they will change those definitions on a whim if it suits them. You have to go by the definitions that you know are true, not what they want you to think. In their eyes, the public lynching is justified because these are revolutionary times, and removing Rogan is a revolutionary act. There is no forgiveness because they seek destruction, not restoration. There is some limitation to enforcement power by those means by which they achieve their ends, necessitating the Biden administration in July 2021 to order social media companies to ban those who disagree with the official line of thinking. The US government went so far as to flag the objectionable content itself, helping corporate America snuff out inconvenient voices. Supposedly devout Christian Francis Collins has been silent on the government's campaign to punish dissent, having been part of the cover-up. As Collins uses his faith to promote COVID-19 vaccines, perhaps he needs a reminder that Christianity does not give the civil government jurisdiction over your thoughts and words. Anyways, the censorship encouraged by the Biden administration was effective to an extent. And then they talk about some people who've been banned from Twitter. Yet Joe Rogan thrived in large part because he provided an alternative platform to the voices that were being suppressed. The public yearned for this information, and it was delivered through his podcast. It's reported that Rogan has an estimated 11 million listeners per episode. It's also estimated that his interviews with Dr. Malone and Dr. Peter McCullough brought in millions more. In response, the Biden White House demanded Spotify do more to censor the discussions of Rogan and his guests. At the same time, the liberal mob encouraged their leadership aimed at Rogan hurling disgusting and false allegations of racism. CNN, eager to shift the focus off the network's own problems of losing 90% of their audience, their CEO and half of their employees being involved in sex scandals, is asking Spotify to give Rogan the proverbial death sentence. And I think this is something that's really important that hasn't actually been discussed as much in the course of these events. It's not just Spotify that wants to censor Joe Rogan. It's not just the crazy woke left that want to censor Joe Rogan. It is the United States government. That's who wants to censor him. The United States government wants him to be censored. And this is why it is important that Joe Rogan step up in this moment and say no. Because he is the person in the position to do it. And whether he finds it convenient that he's in the position to do it, that does not even matter. Sometimes we are called to a greater purpose that is bigger than ourselves, and sometimes the call to that purpose is inconvenient. But it doesn't mean you walk away with your 100 million Spotify dollars. It means that you step up and you do the thing that needs to be done because you are the person that has been put in the position to do it. This is the same network that lied about COVID's use of a drug I'm not going to say, calling it horse dewormer. It is the same network that ran an altered video of Rogan, making him seem sicker than he really was. No surprise that it's CNN Brian Stelter leading the way against Rogan. How do I describe Stelter? For starters, I do so with pleasure. He is a humorless fat man, a dedicated media believer pretending to be a media reporter. He is as dumb as he sounds and as arrogant as he looks. He oozes the sadism of a hall monitor and the false confidence of an imposter. He is Kim Jong-un without the hair or the country or the charisma. This is possibly right here one of the most perfect paragraphs that I've ever read in my life. That was Can we all just give a slow clap to Techno Fog just for that paragraph? Slow clap for Techno Fog. Slow clap. That was awesome. That hit me right in the feels, man. It did. Prior to Rogan, Stelter's favorite targets were enemies of the regime. Tucker Carlson and Fox News, for being a media reporter, he typically has a curious focus to target one journalist and one network. CNN tolerates this well, excusing Stelter's poor ratings because he attacks the network's adversaries and defends the network without question. Put Stelter on offense against his critics and he'll call a jihad against right-wing media from his CNN studio. He's a zealot that will behead you for drawing a cartoon of the wrong left-wing figure, whether it's Joe Biden or Don Lemon, and then blame you for inciting violence on reliable sources the next day. He will demand the unvaccinated be treated as second-class citizens regulated to the margins of society until they comply with his favored health policies. Just as he continues on his own adventure of finding out what comes after morbid obesity. And in the presence of his preferred state power, masochist Stelter emerges to flatter and grovel. When he had the chance to interview Joe Biden's press secretary, he lobbed the softball of his dreams. What does the press get wrong when covering Biden's agenda? Stunning and brave, Brian Stelter. But back to Rogan. One could say that Rogan is under attack for speaking truth to power, but that's not quite true. As Christopher Hitchens observes, the cliche is looking in the wrong direction because power already knows the truth. More importantly, Rogan and his guests speak truth to the powerless. And this is the point that I really wanted to get at in this article and why I think it's such a good observation. This is why they want Joe Rogan silenced. Critical race theory isn't about race, it's only about power. The audience that Joe Rogan targets is not the powerful, is not the media elite, is not the high and mighty. The people that love Joe Rogan are the powerless, the everyday people, the average person that just wants to kick back and watch an interesting conversation between interesting people and get the information that they need and hear different perspectives. The normal person stuff. The audience Joe Rogan has is not the one that's controlling the narrative. It's the ones that are on the receiving end of the narrative. And that's what makes Joe Rogan so dangerous to these people. Because he has the power to disrupt every plan that they've put in place in order to control all of us by focusing their media attention and allies on the same talking points that they issue to every damn station every night. You guys have all seen these videos, right, of multiple news stations literally saying exactly the same thing because they all get their talking points from on high. Joe Rogan doesn't get his talking points from on high, and that's why he's so dangerous. That's what they're scared of. And that's why we see these campaigns against Tucker and Rogan and anyone else who will dare tell dangerous truths. To put it another way, President Biden and his corporate allies and their mob of supporters seek to obliterate the relationship between the writer and the reader and the speaker and the listener. Thus, this is more than Joe Rogan. It is about you. It is about me. It is about gatekeeping and limiting what we can watch and read and hear, and they archive that end through the destruction of Rogan. They achieve that end through the destruction of Rogan as an individual. I see Lynn asking, where's this article? This article is on Techno Fog Substack. It's technofog.substack.com. You can go read the full thing. Go share it out. It is a great article with a great perspective. And this perspective, I hope Joe Rogan understands this. My perception of Joe Rogan is that he doesn't pay attention to a lot of the media, and I God bless him for it. That's what you need to do in his position. I can't imagine. But I truly hope that someone gets this message to him, because he needs to understand the position that he's in and the consequences of his actions. And now he's got 100 million reasons waiting for him over at Rumble, allegedly, where he can both get his payday, his cash cow that he's been waiting for. He will have the freedom to have any guests on his channel that he wants, talk about whatever issues he wants. He'll bring a lot of users over to Rumble, which, to be quite frank, I would be pretty excited about. One of the beefs I have with Rumble is I don't think they have enough people using the website. So if Joe Rogan's 11 million listeners come over to Rumble, I will be pleased as punch. I will be so happy. But we'll see what happens. It'll be extremely, extremely telling. All right, guys, you're watching Live at 5. This is a stream that I do at 5 p.m. every day, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday on my main channel. Now, we've got some cool stuff coming up this week. We've got some interesting conversations. Tomorrow on the channel, I'm going to have Lily Tang Williams joining us. Lily Tang Williams was recently on Tim Pool's show, but she is also, more importantly, running for Congress in New Hampshire. She is an amazing lady. I am thrilled that she's running for Congress. And I think that she needs to win, and we all need to help her win. And so I'm going to have her on the channel tomorrow, and we're going to talk about what she's got going on with the campaign, what her issues are. If you've never heard Lily speak, she's an immigrant from China. She came here with $100 in her pocket. She grew up in Mao's China. She understands what's going on in this country, and she's afraid that this country is becoming like the country that she left. So she's going to come and have a conversation with us about that. Then, of course, tomorrow evening, Joshua and I are back. I want to have Joshua do Joe Rogan's astrological chart. We'll have Joshua predict all the things with Joe Rogan. This is a regular weekly show that I do with news. And yes, we have psychics because that's what we do on this channel. We do some woo-woo stuff, but it's really, really fun. And even if you don't like psychics, I think you'd still love this show. We do it on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. On Wednesday, I'm just going to have a normal stream where I'm talking like this at 5 p.m. And then on Thursday, I'm going to have Harrison Kemp come join the channel. Now, this is an interesting one because Harrison is running as a libertarian for the governor of Maine. I'm running as a libertarian for the governor of New Hampshire. And I think, like, if Harrison and I both get elected, we can take over 2 of the New England states. How great would that be? Now, of course, we know that's not going to happen. Like, come on, we're not going to. But at least we can talk about our issues. We can try to push the conversation. He's a great guy, and I'm really excited to have him on the channel on Thursday. And then on Friday, we go over to my second YouTube channel, Actively Unwoke, which is youtube.com/activelyunwoke for Happy Hour. If you've never seen Happy Hour before, I've got a couple great streams that you can catch up on. On Friday this past week, we watched a stream all about teaching anti-racist math. It is exactly as frightening as you think it is. We also did a great stream a couple weeks ago talking about the equity curriculum in Philadelphia public schools. And we will be doing, I haven't picked out the training yet for this week's Happy Hour, but we will be back on Friday at 5 p.m. to watch that. Now, if you haven't yet checked out my website, activelyunwoke.com, of course, you want to be able to pre-order my book. That's really the best part. But I want to make sure you guys know about a live event that we have coming up on Friday. Also on Friday, we have this webinar, How to Find Out What Schools Are Teaching with Public Records Requests, where Nicole Solis, who is a mom that wrote so many public records requests that she got sued by the teachers unions, she's going to come and for free teach us all how to do public records requests. You just have to sign up for the free webinar. You can do that over on activelyunwoke.com. Public records requests are the bane of these people's existence, so we need to be able to do as many public records requests as we can. Nicole's going to teach us how to do it. And if you missed this webinar that I gave last week on Friday, or not on Friday, on Tuesday of last week, on February 1st, you can also head over to the page. And if you want to see the recording of this webinar, which is an introduction to critical race theory, just go ahead and click on that promo because I haven't updated it yet. And what's going to happen is you're going to come to a landing page, I think, if my internet wants to work. You will eventually come to a landing page in which you can, oh, there it is. You can sign up and watch the recording. Just put in your name and email address, and the recording is right there, and you can watch the recording of that webinar that I gave last week. All right, let's jump into a couple other articles that I want to talk about. Now, this is an article that I just thought was a little silly. I had such hopes for Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang left the Democrats. He realized the Democrats are screwed up, effed up beyond all repair. And he started this Unity Party thing, which, I mean, I'm not down with the Unity Party thing, but I like the idea of it. I think it was a good idea. I think that, I like the spirit. So I was like, maybe Andrew Yang's going to red pill. Maybe Andrew Yang gets it. No. Andrew Yang apologizes for tweeting that Joe Rogan isn't racist because he works with black people. Never apologize, Andrew. Never bend the knee. Former Democratic presidential and New York City mayoral candidate Andrew Yang is apologizing for tweeting that podcast host Joe Rogan isn't racist because he works with black people. Rogan, who has been under fire over misinformation on his popular podcast, apologized on Saturday for his repeated use of racial slurs. I don't think Rogan is a racist. The man interacts with and works with black people literally all the time. Now, why do people consider it wrong for Andrew Yang, who is Asian? Stop Asian hate. Asian only counts when it's convenient. Why do we think this was wrong for him to tweet? I mean, for normal people, and again, I'll make the font bigger for you guys. For normal people, it is actually like, it is actually pretty reasonable to say that if someone works with non-white people literally all the time and there's no problem, then they're probably not that racist. But this is wrong to say in the land of the woke because they don't consider that to be the definition of racism. They've created their own definition of racism that has absolutely nothing to do with how you treat people that are not white, how you treat people based on the color of their skin. It has nothing to do with that. In fact, being racist literally has nothing to do with skin color anymore. When the woke use the term whiteness in training, they don't mean white. They don't mean white like I'm a pasty white French Irish woman, right? They don't mean that. What they mean is who owns the power structure. And so Andrew hasn't yet learned his woke. We'll teach Andrew to speak woke at some point. We'll teach him to speak leftist. He hasn't yet learned the language, and he stepped right into a trap. Emphasize says only reasonable public records requests are honored. No, that's not true. All public records requests are honored. Now, whether or not you want to pay for those public records requests, that's another thing, but it is absolutely not true that only some public records requests are honored. All public records requests have to be honored. That's why they're public records requests. But the problem is that you might have to pay for them, which is what it is. Maybe we can crowdfund for people who need help paying for public records requests. In a new Twitter thread, Yang wrote that he deleted the tweet because it was wrong-headed, adding it wasn't his intent to hurt people's feelings and he's learning from the incident. Oh no, Andrew, they got you. I like to believe the best of people, especially if I've met and spent some time with that person. Sometimes it makes me miss something. I think we should have the capacity to forgive people, whether a podcaster or a mayor, if they mess up. Maybe it's because I mess up too. Well, Andrew's not wrong about that. In theory, we should be able to forgive people. In theory, an apology should actually be good enough. But the problem is that's not what's going on in the woke mindset today. Charles in the chat asks, so racism is not based on color, but based on power structures. Yes. I know that seems counterintuitive. I know I'm going to have people in the chat say, Carlin, it's called critical race theory. Well, the reality, guys, is that anyone who watches Happy Hour with me on Fridays on my second channel knows that when you watch the full woke trainings that they do, and we watch old woke trainings, we watch new woke trainings. That Philadelphia equity curriculum came out 2 weeks ago. It came out the day before we did the stream. And what they mean when they say white is not actually the color of your skin. It has to do with who owns the power structure. That's why Larry Elder could be considered a white supremacist. Not because he has white skin, because he really doesn't, but because he's in a position of power. It's all about power. Racism is real, deep, coercive, and even lethal. I know that. I made a mistake in an earlier tweet tonight that downplayed these realities. Yang's tweet initially drew backlash, including a response from a Democratic National Committee chairman, Jamie. Dude, seriously? You're joking, right, Andrew? Is that now the new defining line, working with folks? That tells you all you need to know about the Democratic Party right there, doesn't it? That this is the response from the National Committee chairman for the Democratic Party. Dude, seriously? You're joking, right? Is that now the new defining line, working with folks? Well, Jamie, you guys have made the defining line, if you're born white, you are a racist. So Andrew Yang's defining line actually seems significantly more reasonable than yours does. And now they're talking about musicians leaving and his and more stuff about Joe Rogan. I just thought this was a funny story, to be really honest. Andrew Yang is I have faith that Andrew Yang is going to learn. Andrew Yang is like Marianne Williamson. Both of them are like, they're both teetering. They're teetering on taking that red pill. It's like Andrew Yang and Marianne Williamson have had the red pill shoved in their mouth and they keep spitting it out. And we keep shoving it back in and they keep spitting it out. But one of these days, both Andrew Yang and Marianne Williamson, I promise you, are going to swallow the red pill. Marianne Williamson's like this close. Because the thing that's funny about Marianne Williamson is she sees everything, but she hasn't connected the dots yet. I think Andrew Yang's going to get there when he realizes that the woke left doesn't believe there's racism against Asian people. Or that there's only racism against Asian people when it's convenient. Maybe Andrew Yang will be red pilled by this Harvard affirmative action case that's going to the Supreme Court. We'll see. We'll see. But guys, the last article I wanted to talk about, and I'm sorry, I know I got everyone excited at the beginning with Joy Reid reaction stream, and then I forgot that I have my locals call at 7 and I can't do Joy Reid reaction stream tonight. I'm sorry. Maybe we'll do it tomorrow. Maybe we will. Maybe we'll do Joy Reid. No, we can't do it tomorrow. I have 2 streams already tomorrow. We can't do it tomorrow. That's too many streams. Because we have I'm going to figure out the next time we're going to do Joy Reid react. We're going to do it on Wednesday. I'm putting the stake in the ground now. Wednesday will be Joy Reid reaction stream. But I saw this article and I just had to we have to have a moment to laugh. This is one of those things that we're going to read and laugh at it. With RNC resolutions, the GOP fully embrace mob politics. The RNC called the January 6th attack legitimate political discourse when it censored Representatives Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, paving the way for more violence in the future. Now, I covered the censorship of censorship of Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger on Effed Up News yesterday. I've got a clip waiting in the hopper that I'm going to post on that. But basically, what happened is the RNC actually did something correct. The RNC labeled January 6th as legitimate political discourse. That is the correct labeling. And then they quickly took it back. The RNC bent the knee. And of course, Joy Reid's not going to talk about this, but the article we read yesterday on the channel did. It's like they got right up to the edge. They were like, we're going to do the right thing after a year of not doing the correct thing. And then they took it back. But but them taking it back is not good enough because Joy Reid is still going to be pissed about the fact that anyone who's not a crazy Democrat considers January 6th to be legitimate political discourse. Let's read and laugh. Republicans have officially embraced the lynch mob. Last week, the Republican National Committee passed a formal resolution to censure GOP Representatives Liz Cheney of Wyoming and Adam Kinzinger of Illinois for participating in the House January 6th Committee's investigation into the Capitol riot. With that resolution, which defined the probe as a Democratic-led persecution of ordinary citizens engaged in legitimate political discourse, the Republican Party fully endorsed the insurrectionist mob. It made clear the GOP's support for the violent rioters over some of its own party members. Despite their attempted revisionism, it is important to remember the type of people the RNC is classifying as ordinary citizens, and the behavior the party is classifying as welcomed political speech. I mean, is Joy Reid or whoever wrote this on Joy Reid's staff, are they arguing that the people who are there on January 6th are not ordinary citizens? Because that seems a little ridiculous to me. I think Tim Pool is extremely alarmist over civil war. I think Tim Pool is extremely alarmist over civil war. I think Tim Pool is extremely alarmist over civil war. I think Tim Pool is extremely alarmist over civil war. I think Tim Pool is extremely alarmist over civil war. I think Tim Pool is extremely alarmist over civil war. I think Tim Pool is extremely alarmist over civil war. I think Tim Pool is extremely alarmist over civil war. I think Tim Pool is extremely alarmist over civil war. I think Tim Pool is extremely alarmist over civil war. I think Tim Pool is extremely alarmist over civil war. I think Tim Pool is extremely alarmist over civil war. I think Tim Pool is extremely alarmist over civil war. I think Tim Pool is extremely alarmist over civil war. I think Tim Pool is extremely alarmist over civil war. I think Tim Pool is extremely alarmist over civil war. I think Tim Pool is extremely alarmist over civil war. I think Tim Pool is extr I want to say this just because I see people talking in the chat about Tim Pool's like predictions. I think he is extremely alarmist over civil war. If for no other reason, I'm sorry, but conservatives are lazy and would never do it. They would never do it. I have no doubt that the left would do it. No doubt in my mind at all. Conservatives would run right back to their houses and hide in their basements, cowering, kind of in their head saying 1776, but then cowering in the basement under a blanket, hiding. That's what conservatives would do. There ain't going to be no civil war because ain't no one on the right is going to initiate or fight a civil war. Anyway, let's get back to this Joy Reid crazy article. Some rioters who breached the Capitol hurled racist epithets while chasing police officers. Other attackers waved flags, signs and symbols of white supremacist groups. Look at this. They waved flags, comma, signs and symbols of white supremacist group. Are they really saying that flags are the signs and symbols of white supremacy? Others literally brought a gallows and shouted, "Hang Mike Pence." I will say this. This was like the dumbest fucking thing that's ever happened. I don't know who thought that was a good idea, probably a Fed, but that was like the dumbest thing that has ever happened in the history of ever. That was like bait, man. Kelly O'Daniel says the backlash for not apologizing is significantly less than if you succumb and apologize to the mob. Should be a wake up call to everyone. Never give in. Kelly, that is exactly correct. That is exactly right. It might seem like apologizing is going to get you out of a problem, but it's not, and it might for just like the briefest of moments, but it's actually going to get you into a much bigger problem in the long term, and a lot more pain is going to be had. This was unmistakably a lynch mob. Oh my god. You're telling, oh my, I cannot even. As though that's real. That wasn't even a real flipping noose. It's important we see Republican efforts to defend it for what they are, attempts to normalize racist violence as a political strategy. Their stance harks back to the early 1920s, when a resurgent Ku Klux Klan tried to assert its legitimacy by claiming to represent many Americans' political interests. They too sought to establish their brutal tactics as a form of acceptable political speech. You can read the RNC resolution and hear echoes of Hiram Wellesley Evans, the head of the Klan in the 1920s and 30s. In his 1926 essay, The Klan Fight for Americanism, Evans said, "The group spoke for the great mass of Americans of the old pioneer stock," which didn't include it. I'm not going to say those words. I'm not going to say that. Someone would clip that out of context. And it's just not words I say anyway. Emphasize says, when you tell the internet that you are inciting people to file these requests for the sole purpose of no, that's not correct. Public records requests are public, man. Anyone can file a public records request. Anyone can file as many public records requests as they want. Now, they are responsible for paying for the costs of those public records requests, but that, emphasize, you're wrong. Thank you for the super chat, but you are wrong. Nicole Solis is a lawyer, dude. Where's your law degree? The Klan does fairly and faithfully represent them, Evans wrote, of the old pioneer stock of Americans, and our proof lies in their support. Richard, thank you for the super chat. The Queen speaks. Thank God we need you more than ever. Well, thank you, Richard, for the moment I'm speaking anyway. Evans went on to write of the low standard aliens whose influence he claims hindered American freedom. Those who know that American character know that if the problem is not soon solved by wisdom, it will be solved by one of the cataclysmic outbursts, which have so often disgraced and saved the race, he said. All that is old is made new again. Just as white conservatives accepted racist violence as a political tactic in the past, white conservatives today, those with actual power, at least, are suggesting violence is a fundamental part of the political discourse. Look at this. This is an entire article that's basically hinging on the fact that the RNC called the January 6 attacks legitimate political discourse, and they wrote a couple paragraphs about how, like, oh my God, the RNC did a thing we don't like, and then spent the rest of the time talking about a 1920s article written by a member of the Klan. This is a dirty trick. This is a trick. This is one of those things that, like, they're writing this article just to have the headline out there that they know that no one is going to read. Emphasize, we know this because of Spy Stream that we watched a couple weeks ago. We know that public records requests are the thing that annoys these people more than anything. I'm sorry, dude. I appreciate the super chats. You are wrong. You are wrong. I'm not going to pretend that you're right just because you're sending in a super chat. You are wrong about this. You need to stop telling people these things, because if you tell people these things, they're going to treat it as though they are true, and it is not true. Public records requests are one of the most effective things we can do, and we're going to learn all about public records requests on Friday when Nicole Solis, lawyer, emphasize lawyer, is going to teach us how to write them. And that's going to be a really great webinar. You can sign up for that over on activelyunwoke.com. Guys, that is all I have for the stream today. Okay, emphasize. Emphasize. You can keep sending me money to tell me things that are wrong, and I will keep gladly taking your money and displaying it on the screen, and I will keep emphasizing that you are wrong. So guys, if you want to sign up to hear from an actual lawyer about public records requests and what you need to know, you can head over to activelyunwoke.com, go to the live events section, and you will be able to sign up for that webinar for free. Just go to register here. We also have next week a webinar coming up with Paul Rossi, who is going to show us exactly what's in some of these crazy teacher diversity trainings that teachers and our taxpayer dollars are actually paying for. And just a reminder for my locals members that are signed up for book club on February 20th, which is a local supporter perk, we are still reading The R of the Mind. It is a wonderful book, a scary book to be quite frank, but a really great book. And woke whistleblower from the University of Vermont and psychologist and all-around awesome guy, Aaron Kinesvatter, is going to join us for book club on February 20th at 6 p.m., which will be right after Effed Up News, I think. And we're going to talk about The R of the Mind. So get reading if you haven't already. There's still plenty of time to get your copy of the book. We still got a couple of weeks and to read up. Now, if you want to join us, you can head over to kb.locals.com and sign up for a membership. You can sign up for a membership for $5 a month. You can also do it for $50 a year if you want to get a couple months for free. You can also make a one-time gift. I do like taking one-time gifts through my locals. Now, you can do PayPal and crypto. It's all in the information below. And of course, I appreciate crypto as well. I've just recently started accepting crypto, and I really do appreciate it. But if you make your one-time gift through locals, that allows us to unlock all the features of locals at the same time. So it's pretty great. You get like a 2-for-1, and I really appreciate it. Guys, I will be starting the local Zoom call in about 45 minutes. So if you have never been to a local Zoom call before, today is a perfect day to go. We are going to be doing an open Zoom at 7 p.m. Eastern time, which we do every Monday night, even though I forget until like an hour before the thing starts. But we always make it on time. We're going to have a great open chat about what's going on in the world. And of course, as a last reminder, for all my local supporters, we are doing Bitchcraft on Saturday at 3 p.m. And I will look forward to seeing many of you then. All right, guys, I'll be back streaming tomorrow at 5 p.m. for this conversation with Lily Tang Williams. And I strongly recommend you guys tune in. It's going to be a great little chat. Until then, have a great rest of your night, and we'll see you soon.